I'm Regina McCann-Hess, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, we're going to talk about taking back some control over your finances, not letting somebody else do it all for you, but being part of the conversation. We're all busy and we're all delegating, but sometimes you need to at least be part of the conversation. And if that's all you have time to do, that will have to be it. But you can go from there to being even knee deep in the details and getting hands on. So one of the first things you want to do is start asking yourself, where do you want to be? What are your goals? What are the savings goals? How old do you want to be when you retire? What's your ideal vision of retirement? Everyone's is different, right? If I had asked people this 10, 15 years ago, it was, the rocker chair version. And now every time I ask that question, it's completely different or virtually different for almost everyone. It's a combination of I still want to work or I want to volunteer or I want to travel, spend some time with my family. It's a lot of different things. But here's the thing, do you want to retire and can you retire are two questions that could have very, very different answers. And getting to the point where you can choose to retire if you want to, or choose to keep working because you want to, not because you have to, is a very, very powerful statement. So those are some of the questions you want to ask yourself. Also, what might the potential costs of your ideal retirement lifestyle be compared to your lifestyle now? Will it be a downgrade? Will you stay even keel? Things like that. And also, we also want to talk about your legacy, what you want your legacy to be. How do you want to be remembered after you're gone? Things along those lines. So those are like some of the starting points for the big picture, right? Those are big picture types of conversation. And this kind of leads you into like, maybe let's see how deeply do I want to go into financial planning? What does my future look like? And how do I see that future through the financial side of the picture? One of the conversations that I have with people are, it's about, hey, we ask the question, how much do you make, right? It's a common question when we're dealing with investments, finances, and money. But a more important question is, how much do you keep? It is very evident how people, handle their money. You can earn boatloads of money, but if you don't keep any of it, you're not going to do yourself much good. So it's about what you keep, not about what you spend. Even clients who save well can usually dial in their financial thinking a little bit more. And the first step is to become aware of emotional decision making. We all do it, right? We all make some of those emotional decisions, whether or not it's with money or another part of our lives. But if we can become aware of those emotional decisions, maybe they could help guide us a little bit past making mistakes or avoiding some mistakes or aiming to avoid some of those mistakes. So it's all working towards what can we do to make ourselves better, make our financial lives better. So before making any large non-essential purchases, you want to ask yourself this: if my spouse or I should lose our income, could we still afford this? How easily could we downsize? And how much do we have to set aside in case something goes wrong? Now, this is, thinking about before indulging on expensive whims. Have we first committed to a plan for securing long-term needs and goals, like college for our kids, our retirement, or our legacy? And that's not like when you're going into the store to buy, furniture or something like that. I'm talking bigger picture purchases, like maybe it's the pool, maybe it's the clubhouse. Everyone has different purchases. There's no right or wrong to them. It's just making sure you think through them, and you have your other areas of your financial life covered. This kind of leads us to bucket thinking. It's called the bucket approach or the bucket thinking. And this is where you can situate your money in three different buckets. And sometimes people will use a fourth bucket, but I tend to do three. The first bucket is your short-term liquid cash money. That's money in your checking account, your savings account, your money market, CDs, things like that. Usually this is FDIC insured. It's pretty safe. 1 to 3 month CDs, all those things for that rainy day fund that could start within 3 to 6 months, and gradually going to 2 to 3 years. This is the thing that would cover your bills, or should anything happen to you or your spouse, you lose a job, you wind up in the hospital. And having this bucket of money helps prevent undue stress whenever there's a market crash or any other big crisis that's out of your control. So gradually, the first time you have bucket number one that you're working on it, the goal is to get the 3 months worth of cash flow needs. Then we bump it to 6 months of cash flow needs, so that you have that time to recover from those types of emergencies. Ideally, especially for my retirees or people getting closer to retirement, we like 2 years worth of that cash flow in bucket number one, so that we don't have to worry about the market going down. So we know we have the cash flow on hand that we need in case the market goes down during that time frame. And that's to give the market time to rebound, for anybody especially who's on a fixed income at that point in their lives. So short-term money in that area, in that bucket. Again, we're not taking risk there. We're being as safe as possible. And, yeah, you're going to give up maybe, a little bit of points if you could potentially invest it a little bit longer term. But this is the money that's going to keep you sleeping at night, keep your fingernails out of the ceiling when the markets go down. So, you have that bucket of money in the bank or bank type products. Bucket number two is more kind of intermediate term. Think 3 to 10 years down the line. People often fill this bucket with a large goal in mind, whether or not it's a new house, a vacation home, a big vehicle. This may also be where we have college funding or wedding money. That's the type of thing that could go in here. Whatever the case, this bucket takes a little bit more risk than bucket number one, and it's kind of considered a happy medium between the liquid funds in bucket number one and the riskier long-term stuff in bucket number three. So, a lot of times I see in this bucket a lot of bonds or fixed income, however you like to refer to it. And there may be a little bit of risk there too. And don't think just because you're in fixed income that there isn't any risk. There's definitely risk in fixed income or bonds. I'm sure you would feel that way after 2022 and what happened to the bond market there. So never think that just because your money's in the bond market or fixed income that it's completely safe, because it too can go up and down in volatility. Okay, now for bucket number three. This bucket can be volatile because this is exclusively meant for your long-term money. You shouldn't even think about touching this money for at least a decade or more. And that's why this is a great place for your retirement money, assuming that you're not 2 years away from retirement. But if we're, 10 years away from retirement or more, in my mind, I can take risk in that bucket. I'm comfortable with that risk. Are you comfortable with that risk? If you know you don't need that money for 10 years, if the market goes down, will that market recover and possibly have some upside in 10 years? Those are the types of questions that you have to ask yourself. So bucket thinking can help override some of that emotional decision making, because you can be like, oh, goodness, the market's down. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then you're like, wait a minute. I have bucket number one, and that is cash. And I have, a year or 2 years worth of cash. So I have time to ride out the market downturn. So that's kind of what we're trying to use it for. And that way you can keep your money locked away for the long term and the middle term. And it kind of gives you a better sense of your short-term resources and also how to prioritize your spending. Because I think we all need to revisit that every once in a while. I know with when COVID happened, or I should say after COVID, the inflation numbers that came through, we're all still dealing with some pretty high price points. So kind of going back to basics and looking at your budget, or even redoing a new budget because maybe it's been so long. But due to the high prices, sometimes it has helped people to kind of revisit budgeting and to just basically help yourself by taking a look at everything. Okay, so then you're thinking about all that kind of stuff, your short-term needs, your intermediate needs, and your longer-term needs. And now you're going to kind of start thinking about, okay, well, is there somebody that can help me with this? If you look at all the sports professionals, they're professionals and they make it look like it's easy, but it's not. They all have coaches, and those coaches help them keep on track. So what kind of coach do you need to keep you on track with your finances and your investing and your planning? So you might be looking for a financial professional. In my office, I offer financial planning. You could also look to a financial coach, or you can even sign up for a program online. There is also a bunch of podcasts out there on financial topics, ranging from coaching and investing and planning and all sorts of different topics out there on the financial side. And they also range from beginner to intermediate to advanced. So there's plenty of self-help, I guess, if you want it to be do-it-yourself type of person. But if you want to use somebody to be there and keep you accountable, that might be a financial coach, it might be a financial advisor, or a financial planner like myself. So financial coaching offers you like a general short-term focus for the most part. They can be great for learning how to better direct your cash flow in terms of budgeting. And a financial coach also teaches you financial concepts and terminology, offers tips that are going to hopefully apply to most situations. I know there is a budgeting coach that I send a lot of people to, and she does a fabulous job. And sometimes that's what people need. They don't need me, and they just need somebody to help them get them back up on their feet, get them back up into the budgeting mode. And once they're up and running, they can go on their own and do what they need to do. The financial coaching, like I said, it's mostly for short-term type stuff. There may be some specific long-term projections or ongoing personalized plans though. And if for that, you're probably going to want to lean more towards a personal financial advisor or a financial planner. So of course, that's where I work in that field. So I have a leaning towards that. But I also know it's not always a straight, easy path from where you are and where you want to be. It's a lot of times it's an uphill battle. You're not realizing, or maybe you do realize there's going to be a lot of unexpected detours along the way. I mean, if you've lived at all in the past 10 years, you'll realize that, yeah, we've had a lot of unexpected detours, and what can we do to help prepare for them? And obviously, we aim to prepare for as much as we possibly can. You have things like COVID nobody saw, and as best as we can prepare for it, maybe we're not perfect, but at least we may have, some arrows in our quiver or some tools that we can use to work through something like that. So, you don't have to make the trek alone. In my book, I even mentioned Lewis and Clark had guides, and I think one of them was a woman. I'm just saying. It was a really fun getting to learn more about Lewis and Clark and their guides. Okay, so if you're going to use an advisor, financial advisor, or financial planner, the first thing you need to do is interview them. You want to interview probably about 2 or 3 people, ideally in person, because you can read body language, you can make eye contact. I mean, I have actually done it on Zoom myself, and I personally prefer in person because, both sides can get to know each other a little bit better. But sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes Zoom just works out for schedules, and then eventually try to meet them in person. So some of the things I'm going to tell you some questions that you may want to ask a financial advisor to see if they're really a good fit for you. But one of the red flags that I will tell people before you even start the conversation, or you're halfway through the conversation, a red flag for me would be if the person across the desk is starting to recommend investment accounts, insurance products, annuities, any kind of product during that initial meeting, they don't know you. How could they offer you solutions at that point? So if they seem focused on selling products from the start, they may be focused on their own agenda rather than building a long-term mutually beneficial relationship with you. So just be careful about that. Pay attention to those context clues, things like that. Um, when you are interviewing a financial advisor or financial planner, it's also good to learn how long they've worked with their firms, plus how many other firms they've worked with for how long. It doesn't mean that the advisor has had to stay at the same firm their entire working career. That's not realistic. We all have to change for one reason or another. You're just looking for a pattern of like short stints. That could be a red flag, but moving 2 or 3 times in a career, that's kind of more normalized than 5 or 6. I would start to ask why did they move so often. You also want to ask about how long they tend to retain their clients. Are they more short-term relationship with their clients, or are they more about building that long-term relationship? Also, if you're looking for somebody to do financial planning, of course, I'm going to prefer somebody who has the certified financial planner designation because I have it. I'm not saying that they're the best planners in the whole world, but they did a lot of education, they did a lot of training, they did a lot of testing to become qualified for financial planning. So it's just another hurdle that they were willing to put themselves through to hopefully do a better job at financial planning than somebody who didn't take those classes. Again, doesn't mean they're better or worse. It's just, a criteria to look at. And of course, I also have a CFP. So, you might say, well, of course you think that. And that's fair. It's fair. I get it. Here are some of the other things you wanna think about, or you ask yourself while you're talking to them, or look at these questions before you go in and just kind of make notes as you're going through the meeting. Did that person speak jargon to you either the whole time or part of the time, or did they use clear, accessible language? If they're using jargon, see what happens if you stop them and ask them to explain that and how they explain that. Are they open to explaining things in a non-jargon language? Also, did they maintain good eye contact and comfortable body language? Sometimes I have people complain to me that they've been to other advisors and, and they were, themselves and their spouse, and the advisor just spoke to the other spouse. That is not a good fit for anybody, especially if you want both partners to be part of that relationship. So make sure they offer good eye contact, comfortable body language. Would you feel comfortable opening up to this person about really private information? Because we speak about very private information. Sometimes you'll have these conversations with us that you won't have with anyone else in your family. Obviously, we do not spread that information, but we have to keep in mind that that's very pertinent to you, very important for us to know some of these things, because that sometimes is what makes you tick and helps us help you with the financial, information that we're handling for you. You also want to go check out their website, any of their social media platforms. Does their marketing persona match what you experience firsthand? Because sometimes, the person on the social media is one person and the person in the office is a completely different vibe. Obviously the like trust, did you like them? The like test. If you felt like off put by them, that's probably not a good match. Did you feel like you could build a trusting relationship with them? Again, that's hard to tell the first meeting, but it's something, you're looking for indicators for that. And I kind of already mentioned this already, but if you're interviewing an advisor with a spouse together, obviously you want to interview them together. You don't want to interview the spouse, just one of you, because it's both of you making that decision. And the advisor needs to know that they're treating both equally, not just one over the other. And you also want to make sure, again, that that advisor makes you feel comfortable and gives you equal eye time and answers your questions and gives you the same acknowledgement and respect as the other spouse. The other thing that I didn't mention is, you want to ask questions and you want to see how they respond to questions. Are they open to questions? Do they shut the questions down? Do they encourage more questions? Things like that. It's pretty important. And most importantly, just trust yourself. You know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. You've been around the block a couple times. We've all had people in our lives that we've had an antenna about and we didn't listen to it. So this is a good time to kind of listen to that antenna that you have. And then you want that person to care about you, your goals, your hopes, and your dreams. They should also celebrate you, your successes, and support you through the hard times because hey, it's not all roses. We have some sorrows that we share as well as our joys. No one's life is perfect. I don't care what they say on social media. Their life is not perfect. We help clients navigate real life, divorce, death, addiction, recovery, abuse, job loss, serious illness for sure, and injury. I mean, that's real life and it happens. And a good advisor is going to, aim to help and personalize your financial needs, protect you and your family, and realize your unique financial visions and values. So those are really important parts of financial planning is obviously picking, if you choose to work with somebody, picking the right person to work with you. And then the other thing I'm going to say is, your call to action is to sit down and think about your goals, whether or not they're short term, intermediate, or long term. You need to start thinking about them and then write them down and write them down with a date and an amount of those goals because otherwise they're just a wish. And if you do that, that can, help start the rest of this process of, taking some control over your financial future. With that, I want to thank you for joining me. Again, I'm Regina McCann Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and our website is forgewealth.com. Our Facebook is at Forge Wealth, Instagram at Forge Wealth Management, and LinkedIn, Regina McCann Hess. Go make it a great day. Thanks.